Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor for the 81st Legislative Session. Before we begin, please be sure to mute your microphone when you are not speaking to minimize background noise. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Hardy,
Here.
Senator Lang,
Here.
Senator Neal,
Here.
Senator Pickard,
Here.
Senator Scheibel,
Here.
Senator Settlemeyer,
Here.
Chair Spearman.
Here. Thank you. I think, Madam Secretary, that indicates that all of our committee members are here. So welcome to our audience joining us remotely and anyone listening over the internet. Today, we have a hearing on Senate Bill 103. I want to do some housekeeping items just before we get started. And take a moment to go over some of the things that I think will be pertinent to what we're doing now and help us to have a better broadcast. As you know, the legislative building is currently closed as a public safety measure to reduce the spread and infection rate of COVID-19. It's closed to the public, and so all the committee members and all the meetings will be held virtually. All the staff and everyone else will participate either through Zoom, video conference, or by telephone. However, there are various ways members of the public can engage with us and participate throughout the process. As in previous sessions, all committee-related information is available on Nellis, which is accessible from the legislature website. There are 4 ways to engage with the committee. These include registering to participate in a committee meeting through the new system on Nellis, which places you in line to testify on a bill or provide public comment during the meeting. You may also submit written comment to the committee at the email address or the fax address listed on the agenda. You can share your opinion via the legislature's opinion application on Nellis. And you can also view committee meetings online through Nellis or on the legislature's YouTube channel. During the 2021 legislative session, to testify on a bill or provide public comment, members of the public must first register for the meeting you would like to participate in. Committee meetings are listed in several places on Nellis, and to register, simply click the participate button near the meeting date. Then fill in the required information, such as your name, the agenda item you're interested in, and position on the bill. Once you're registered and submitted, you will see a confirmation screen, and you will also receive an email with the phone number and ID to call at the time of the meeting. Just a note, while we're meeting registration is required to participate, all people may not be able to speak due to time constraints. Similar provisions during sessions and comment were limited as well. So what we're doing now is really not different than what we would do if we were in person. I will announce the time frame of how many minutes for each response, for and against, and neutral. It will be helpful if more than one person in an organization wishes to comment to remember ditto is a good response. When someone has already covered your points, it's good to say ditto. That helps us to get more callers in. When you're on the phone line, please pay attention to which bill is being considered and follow the verbal prompts provided by the BPS staff. Do this so that you know which keys to press to raise your hand or unmute yourself. The staff will call on you to speak by the last 3 digits of your phone number. Detailed instructions for participating committee meetings are also available on the Help page, which is linked in the banner at the top of every page on Nellis. If you need assistance with any of these processes, or if you would like to receive electronic notification of the committee agendas and minutes, please contact our committee manager at the committee email listed on the agenda. Any exhibits for the committee must be submitted electronically no later than 8:00 a.m. the day before the meeting. They must be submitted to our committee manager, Terry Miller, or to our policy analyst, Cesar Megarejo. Committee contact information may be found on the committee page in Nellis. In addition, any person proposing an amendment to a bill being heard by the committee must first talk to the sponsor. I will not take any amendments if you have not talked with the sponsor first. The proposed amendment must be submitted in writing 24 hours prior to the meeting. Please include the bill number as a statement of intent and your contact information. When testifying, please remember to turn unmute on your microphone and clearly state your name and the entity you represent at the beginning of your testimony. Speak clearly and project your voice to ensure that those who are watching remotely can hear your testimony. Please remember to turn the microphone off when you finish speaking. As a reminder to all those who testify, pursuant to Nevada Revised Statutes 1218E.085, it is unlawful for a person to knowingly misrepresent facts when testifying before a legislative committee. A person who knowingly does so is guilty of a misdemeanor. The chair and members of the committee may ask for documentation to support your testimony. To the committee members, during these virtual meetings, when an agenda item calls for a vote, our committee will be using roll call to do so. When the committee secretary calls your name, please answer with yes or no so that there is no confusion. Also, if you have a question, please raise your hand through the Zoom application on the Zoom meeting. And finally, all exhibits received prior to the meeting will be available on Nellis. And so now we have hearing on Senate Bill 103. We have Senator Scheibel, Susan Riggs, and Lou Van Kieve. I probably mispronounced that, and Alex Velto. Senator Scheibel, are you ready? Please begin.
Thank you so much, Chair Spearman. For the record, my name is Melanie Scheibel. I represent Senate District 9 in Clark County, and I'm here today to present Senate Bill 103 for your consideration, which prohibits property insurers from discriminating based on the breed of a dog at a property. By way of background, unfortunately, some dogs are unfairly deemed dangerous or vicious solely because of their breed. However, animal experts will tell you that dogs are not born inherently vicious. They are trained to behave in a dangerous manner. In 2013, the Nevada Legislature recognized this to be true and acted by banning dog breed discrimination. Currently, 21 states, including Nevada, prohibit local authorities from adopting or enforcing an ordinance or regulation that deems a dog dangerous because of its breed alone. In 2019, we again enacted pet-friendly legislation to ensure that no family ever has to choose between their home and keeping an animal family member. Assembly Bill 161 of the 80th legislative session makes it clear that a homeowners association cannot prohibit a unit owner from keeping at least one pet within his or her residence, subject to reasonable restrictions on pet ownership. Senate Bill 367 of the same session authorizes a tenant of housing acquired, constructed, or rehabilitated with any money from the account for low-income housing to keep one or more pets within his or her residence. Although Nevada has made several strides to become a pet-friendly state, residents are finding themselves in a position where insurance companies are making them choose between being able to obtain or afford property insurance or give up their dogs to animal shelters. Many insurance companies consider a dog's breed when deciding whether to offer an individual homeowner's insurance or the rate they will charge. Even though research has demonstrated that there is no reliable data supporting making a distinction between breed, nor is there evidence that insurance claims for these breeds is financially significant for insurers. In a list of factors utilized in underwriting homeowner insurance policies provided to me by the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, breed of dog is nearly unique in its targeted application based on homeowners' lifestyle decisions unrelated to the condition of their home or property. The factors provided included the cost to rebuild the home, whether the home is made of brick or wood, the distance of the home to a water source, the age and condition of the home, the claims history of the home, the insured's insurance score, having protection devices in the home, such as smoke detectors and burglar alarms, having a wood furnace or wood stove, having a swimming pool, trampoline, or playscape, and whether or not the person operates a business from their home. In the 15-year U.S. dog bite fatality chart provided you by the APCIA in their opposition testimony, it's devoid of any citation, making it impossible for you or me to determine where the data came from or to assess the validity of that pie chart. Nor does the chart or the accompanying opposition testimony provide any connection between the cost of a dog bite claim and the alleged breed of the dog involved. A rise in the volume or cost of dog bite claims on the whole does not indicate that certain breeds are more dangerous than others. You've also received written testimony from the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies, which has absolutely no citations to any scientific, academic, or other authority to support its claim that certain breeds of dogs are more dangerous than others. To the contrary, NAMIC reminds us that pets are like children, yet children are not a recognized factor in underwriting formulas. Senate Bill 103 would prohibit breed discrimination by insurance companies and instead require them to look at whether the dog has a vicious history. Currently, Michigan, through underwriting rules, and Pennsylvania statute prohibit insurers from denying coverage to homeowners based on the breed of their dog. They are also unable to exclude a dog from liability coverage. Senate Bill 103 prohibits an insurer from refusing to issue, canceling, renewing, or increasing the premium or rate for a policy of property insurance solely based on the specific breed or mixture of breeds of dog that is located on the property unless that particular dog is known or declared to be dangerous or vicious in accordance with NRS 202.500. Subsection 3 of Section 1 also prohibits an insurer from asking or inquiring about the specific breed or mixture of breeds of a dog located on insured property or proposed to be insured. However, an insurer may ask if the dog is known to be or has been declared to be dangerous or vicious in accordance with NRS 202.500. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present this bill to you, and I urge you to support SB 103 to help keep Nevada families whole. I have a group of experts here with me today to present additional details about the bill and answer questions for you. And with the chair's permission, I would like to turn the microphone over to Susan Riggs from the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
Yes, please proceed.
Good morning, Chair Spearman and members of the committee. My name is Susan Riggs, and I'm Senior Director of State Legislation with the ASPCA. As Senator Scheibel mentioned, in 2013, this esteemed body passed Assembly Bill 110, sponsored by your colleague, the Honorable James Warrenshaw. The bill prohibited government regulation of dogs based upon breed throughout the state in favor of a paradigm that addressed the nature of the dog based upon its individual behavior. At that time, then Assemblymember Warrenshaw was quoted as saying, "It has always been bad public policy to enact ordinances that target a certain breed of dog without considering that individual dog's actions." The statement captures the growing consensus among both the public and private sector that breed-specific laws have failed. At the time of AB 110's passage, there were 14 states that explicitly prohibited breed-specific regulation of dogs. This number has now grown to 21 states. These states add to a long list of organizations that have looked at fact and science and reject breed-based regulation of dogs. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the American Bar Association, the American Veterinary Medical Association, just to name a few. I am going to focus my testimony today on the facts and science on which this consensus is built. Facts and science that lead to a strong conclusion that regulation by breed is ineffective and highly punitive to both innocent dogs and responsible dog owners. First, the identification of breed by appearance is wholly imperfect endeavor, even by experts. The National Canine Research Council has written extensively about the weakness of visual identification of dog breeds, citing numerous expert studies. The overwhelming conclusion is that it's highly flawed. If you're in doubt, I challenge each of you to do a web search for breed identification quiz, like the one that I included in our support letter to you for SB 103, and try your hand at it. Even as a seasoned animal welfare professional, I am regularly unable to identify the breeds featured on the quizzes. That said, property insurance companies regularly rely upon visual identification of dog breeds. So as the saying goes, garbage in, garbage out. The reliance on breed in determining insurance coverage results in inaccurate and inequitable outcomes that should be corrected. Second, even if the breed of a dog is clear, for example, in the case of a dog from a breeder with its papers, breed is not an accurate indicator of whether a dog will be aggressive or pose a risk to health and safety. According to the American Veterinary Medical Association, it's the dog's individual history, behavior, general size, and numbers of dogs involved and the vulnerability of the person bitten that determines the likelihood of whether a dog will bite and whether a dog will cause serious bite injury. Furthermore, scientific studies have determined that the most common causes of fatal dog attacks are preventable factors related to irresponsible dog ownership, abuse or neglect, failure to neuter dogs, and a failure to properly supervise dogs around infants and children. Given the variety of factors that have been shown through science to be determinative, it is no surprise that local governments that regulate solely by breed continue to see high bite statistics. The approach has been shown time and time again to be a short-sighted, knee-jerk reaction to regulation that does more to degrade public safety than to improve it. Nevada has already acknowledged fact and science in its existing dangerous dog law, and yet the law isn't as effective as it could be as long as households with restricted breeds are denied insurance coverage. It is important to note that this bill would not hinder insurance companies' underwriting of particular risks. To the contrary, it allows insurers latitude in evaluating insurance for such risks. Consistent with existing state law, SB 103 simply states that each dog must be judged independently based upon its own temperament and behavior as the basis for its underwriting decisions. Furthermore, the legislation specifically reserves insurers latitude to cancel, refuse to insure, renew, or increase premiums for households in which a resident's dog of any breed has been found to be dangerous pursuant to NRS 202-500. In direct response to the opposition letter received by the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, I will clarify that this existing law in no way requires an insurer to wait for a personal injury to occur. Under existing law, a dog can be deemed dangerous when it has behaved in a way that a reasonable person would perceive to be menacing. SB 103 specifically reserves to the insurance companies the use of sound underwriting and actuarial principles reasonably related to the actual losses or loss experience with a particular dog. As such, it strikes a reasonable balance between insurers' underwriting autonomy and the various ill effects of insurance companies treating all dogs of certain breeds as bad dogs and punishing the people who live with them. Wisely, Nevada state law for years has required government entities to create more effective policies for regulating dangerous dogs. We ask you today for your aye vote on SB 103 to ask companies providing property insurance in your state to be held to the same standard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Stiebel, do you have others that are going to testify?
I believe we have one more expert with us.
Senator, is it me, Lady Van Cabbage?
Yes, thank you.
Again,
Sorry, I was looking through the gallery.
Through the gallery. And again, Chair, my name is very hard to pronounce. So, I've been called a lot as an attorney. You often are. So again, not a problem. My name is Lady Van Cabbage, and I am Senior Legislative Attorney for Best Friends Animal Society. I'm based out of Utah. We have more than 50,000 supporters who live in the wonderful state of Nevada, and we're right next door. I'm a past chair of the American Bar Association's Tort Trial and Insurance Practices Animal Law Committee, and I'm a co-author of the book, The ABA, A Lawyer's Guide to Dangerous Dog Issues. One of the legislature's goals should be that every consumer, regardless of their race, has adequate homeowners coverage. The history of discriminatory insurance practices, such as redlining, require legislators to continually examine insurance company policies and institutional biases that can result in racial discrimination, even if these practices have not faced scrutiny in the past. Insurance companies' breed discriminatory lists can disproportionately impact people of color, just as other underwriting guidelines have done in the past. Homeowner insurance exclusions based on a breed of dog raise a similar specter of discrimination or disparate impact. Insurance companies allege that they discriminate because of the breed of a pet dog due to the risk. Several published scholarly studies argue that the focus on the breed of a pet dog can result in discrimination based on race. Ann Linder, a research fellow at Harvard, analyzed the impacts of breed discriminatory legislation on race and found that there is a correlation between dog breed type and race as it relates to the perception of the owners. In Linder's study, she presented 6 photos of different dog breeds and asked the participants who they thought would own each type of dog. The breeds of dogs were a Maltese, a Collie, a German Shepherd, an American Pit Bull Terrier, and a Golden Retriever. She found that unlike the other 5 breeds that were tested, Pit Bull Terriers were most perceived to be commonly belonging to people of color, specifically young Black males. The perception was consistent regardless of the participant's race or gender. Linder concluded that pit bulls are being targeted in part due to racial bias. Indeed, in the American Property Casualty Insurance's written testimony, they do not cite a chart compiled with insurance data, but copied a chart from the internet from a website of an extreme organization called dogsbite.org, whose goal is eradicating pit bulls. In another scholarly study, Anne Schiavone found that in the context of breed discriminatory laws, the laws are a product of animus against the owners of such breeds, or at least the stereotypical owners. Because arbitrary breed exclusions in property insurance may result in a discriminatory impact on racial minorities, the focus of insurance questions should be on the behavior of the dog. In 2013, I testified in favor of Senator Orenshaw's public safety bill to prohibit municipalities from discriminating against breeds of dogs and to focus on the behavior of the individual dog. Like Ms. Riggs testified, these dogs can be declared dangerous just because of their behavior before a bite. Nevada, by passing the behavior-based bill, took a first step in eliminating the bias of dog breeds and their owners. We respectfully ask the committee to take the next step to outlaw breed discrimination and the disparate impact this can have on minorities in obtaining insurance. Please vote yes on Senate Bill 103. Thank you for your consideration. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. V. How's that? I won't mispronounce that. Thank you so much. Senator Scheibel, you have anyone else that you want to testify?
Yes, it looks like we have 2 more with brief testimony, Mr. Velto and Mr. Dixon.
Okay.
Good morning, Chair Spearman and the members of the committee. For the record, my name is Alex Velto. I'm an attorney in Nevada, and I'm lucky to serve on the Planning Commission for the City of Reno. The previous speakers dispelled myths about dog breeds and explained the interplay between dog breed and race. I'm going to focus on SB 103 as a precursor to local government breed restriction reform and how insurance breed restrictions contribute to housing insecurity. A few months back, the City of Reno was updating its zoning code, and we looked at prohibiting breed restrictions for certain developments. Candidly, there was some pushback, but the pushback was largely based on the inability for property insurance to be purchased if a renter or homeowner had certain breeds. The lack of insurance has always been used as a way to kick the can down the road on ending breed restrictions. This bill removes an important hurdle for local governments to help people have access to housing. Local governments don't have the authority to regulate insurance, so it's near impossible for them to be the first mover in promoting breed-friendly laws. I don't know how many of you have dogs or cats, but we all know people who are obsessed with their dogs. For many, a dog is more than just a companion. It's a family member who provides emotional and physical support. And during COVID, when people are socially distant to protect their health, a dog can be both a best friend and a lifeline. The reality is, though, that breed restrictions and laws and policies affect people in different ways, and oftentimes it's on an economic basis. Some are lucky enough to find housing that accommodates. Others seek out internet letters out of necessity to maintain their residence, and still others have to pay for higher insurance premiums if they can find them. However, these solutions are not easily available to everyone. And for people who are already in a state of housing insecurity, struggling to pay rent and dealing with the realities of COVID, the fear they may have to give up their pets in order to have a roof over their head should not be a consideration. Breed restrictions disproportionately affect low-income and marginalized groups. As housing prices rise statewide, the housing that people can afford with their dog is increasingly slipping out of reach. When a landlord restricts access to housing based on the breed that the person has, their insecurity increases. And for many, the choice of dog ownership can be the biggest hurdle to having housing security. This bill is very important, and I'm thankful that Senator Scheibel has brought this issue to the legislature, and I appreciate the opportunity to voice my support and talk about the bill. I hope you support the bill and vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next presenter.
Hi, my name is Jeff Dixon. I'd like to thank the chair, the vice chair, the members of the committee on behalf of the Humane Society of the United States and our thousands of supporters based here in Nevada. We come before you to support SB 103. Breed discrimination in housing is one of the obstacles to keeping pets with their human families, to adopters who want to bring pets into theirs. It creates more surrenders by reducing the number of available homes for shelter animals. It keeps them in the shelter for longer, which in turn uses space and resources that could be used for other animals in need, including from our state's rural areas. So the path to breed neutral housing in Nevada starts with SB 103. As others have referenced, breed neutrality is already in the public law. Breed neutrality says that there's enough evidence of well-behaved dogs of all genetic backgrounds in various settings to say that breed has no bearing on risk. Now, as in the some have mentioned, some insurance firms, including two of the largest, already practice breed neutrality. Those are USAA and State Farm. Like any other business, they aim to maximize profit. Perhaps they already know that breed discrimination loses business. It's not so easy for consumers to switch though with property insurance because we have a high share of people who don't own their homes, and we have a high share of homeowners who live in HOAs. Landlords and HOAs have their own insurance policies, leaving individuals and families to the dictates of those carriers. It's important to point out that this bill includes a key fair-minded provision that gives insurance firms the opportunity to show their work to the state insurance division. But we should make them because breed neutrality says that there's already enough evidence of well-behaved dogs of all genetic backgrounds in various settings that say it has no bearing on risk. Since again, there's no available evidence showing a predictive relationship between genetics and propensity toward aggression, what explains breed discriminatory policies? Well, for one, it's obvious that most of these dogs are large and quite strong. They can be effective in certain contexts where they are conditioned and trained from a very young age, like the military, the police, as guard dogs, and unfortunately, as fighting dogs. But they have to be brought up that way. The nightly news does its part. We know they are great at exaggerating or even creating the appearance or illusion of a threat associated with certain people, activities, places, and animals. They love a local dog bite story, especially when it involves a stigmatized breed, like a pit bull type dog, which in turn is associated, as others have mentioned, with human stigmas around race and class. Not all dog bites are newsworthy, though. Many are not even reported. That's partly why researchers at esteemed institutions like the CDC have said they can't find a relationship between breed and risk. These researchers haven't found that link, and the property insurers can't show that there is one. The evidence says that the default should be breed neutrality. I would point to an exhibit that I submitted showing some of the responses of a survey that I circulated where Nevadans chimed in on their experience with breed discrimination. It impacts people's lives in real ways, and it's often heartbreaking to see. Breed neutrality reduces housing insecurity for people and pets, and reaffirms our recognition of the human-animal bond, which many of us already enjoy. It'll also be good for our shelter partners. It allows them to do more, to save more lives. That is their mission. That's how they're measured. And I pointed again to their letter as well, where they detail exactly how it impacts their organizations. With that, I thank the sponsor, my partners here today from the ASPCA, the Best Friends Animal Society, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Senator Scheibel, anything to add before I open it up for questions?
No, Chair Spearman, thank you so much for allowing us to present to the committee today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Committee members, are there any questions? You have any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, I didn't see your hand. Vice Chair Neal, and I just saw Senator Settlemyers. So Vice Chair Neal, you go first. Senator Settlemyers, you're next.
So I guess my question is on the actual bill language where, let me pull it up. It was in 103. It's the second part of the bill where basically it has the language where sub 3, where the insurer may not ask or inquire about the specific breed. And I know that this is like the core part of this bill, but I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how like in insurance, when it says basically use sound actuarial policy, if they're trying to get an understanding of, I guess, volume or incidents, how do they pull that information if they can't ask about the breed to then start the policy?
Senator Scheibel, would you like me to respond?
Generic policy?
So there's a variety of questions that they can ask outside of breed, the size of the dog, the weight of the dog, whether there have been incidents with the dog in terms of aggression or bite history or anything like that. Has it been deemed dangerous or vicious under local code or under the state law 202.500? So there's a variety of questions that can be asked, but asking about breed naturally leads to a bias. Many folks don't know what breed of dog they actually have, which was, kind of the fundamental in my testimony, which is, people are told that they have a pit bull. They don't really know if it's a pit bull. It's hard to identify what type of dog it actually is without getting a DNA test or having papers for it. And so, and my apologies, Susan Riggs with the ASPCA responding. Apologies for that. So the idea is to keep that bias out of there because folks don't really know what breed that they do have, and it's really irrelevant in determining whether or not that dog could be aggressive or has a history of aggressive acts.
So, Chair, quick follow-up.
Yes.
So I just had a question on, so the study that was presented related to, I guess, the nexus between breed and people of color and having a disparate impact. What I didn't see is data that said the number of people of color who, number one, had insurance for their dog and then had denial. And I'm also trying to get clarity. Are we bringing this bill because of the disparity for people of color? Or are we bringing this just in general?
If I may answer that, Leedy Van Cavage, Best Friends Animal Society. We're bringing it for a variety of reasons, actually. And until COVID and the incidents of last year really started to have us examine policies from animal shelters to insurance companies to housing as to how they really do impact people of race and things that we never thought of before. Really started to, does this have a disparate impact on people of color? So it's kind of a re-examination, and that's when we found the scholarly articles that indicate there might be something there. It's interesting because I try to do the online insurance quotes, And when I put in that I, live in a house in a certain area and I have a pit bull, I'm able to get insurance. But if I put that I live in another city that might be more of a minority community, I can't get insurance from that insurance company online. So that's why, if we stop asking about breed of dog, it's kind of like don't ask, don't tell policy. I mean, you can base it on behavior. The vast majority of dog bites come from unsterilized dogs. So you can ask, is your dog neutered or spayed? But again, you just can't ask about the breed. And I would love to find, to get more information on exactly, the research and who is being discriminated against because of these dogs. If there's any information out there, we have not been able to get any from the insurance companies.
And I'd like to respond as well to say that the primary purpose of the bill is to eliminate breed discrimination in insurance underwriting because it is not actuarially sound and because there is not data backing up the idea that certain breeds are more dangerous than others. I think that obviously I was not the first person to ask the question, okay, if there are not actual differences between the breeds, are there certain communities who are going to be disproportionately impacted by the use of breed discrimination? And I think that the answer is if there are any disparities, those are going to inure to the disadvantage of people of color because of those scientifically or academically proven, studied connections between or perceived stereotyped connections between people of color and certain breeds of dogs. Now, that's not the same as saying that they have actually been discriminated against in the insurance industry, but it was, for me, kind of a threshold question before bringing this bill. Would it have, if it's going to have a disparate impact on somebody, who is that disparate impact going to be on? And the best we can do is try to put one and one together to get two and say that if there is anybody for whom having, a certain breed of dog be more expensive to insure, is that likely to be breeds that people associate with white people, or are they likely to be breeds that people associate with people of color? And the answer was the latter. And so I think that that doesn't make it the sole reason for bringing the bill. That doesn't speak to the proven actual impact, but it's the best we can do to make an educated guess as to whether or not disparate impacts are being experienced or would be experienced.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Settlemyre, and then Senator Pickard.
Sorry about that. It takes me a while to figure out how to unmute my microphone. I apologize. Anyways, my question was to the bill on the first page, line 9, insurance based solely. I mean, they'll still have the ability to look at the number of animals and, of course, the size of animals. And the reason I ask is in Douglas County, they have an arbitrary and capricious law, at least I think it is, that says you can't have more than 3 dogs on a property, regardless of the size of the animal, or better yet, the size of the property you have. But again, will the property insurance still be able to look at the number of animals and the size of the animals? And then a second part to that question is on the second page, line 9, harbored or owned on the property or is known to be or. So if you have an individual that continually comes over to your property and that dog has been documented to be a biter, I go to the common law rule of 1 bite, right? And under the common law, you were allowed to have a dog, no problem. If there was any recorded incidents that dog bit someone, then from that point forward, you knew or should have known that animal is dangerous and were liable. So I'm just wondering if that still applies, or we're saying that the animal has to be 100% harbored or owned. I mean, what if you're known to allow people to come to your property with dangerous animals?
I'll attempt to respond to that. Susan Riggs with the ASPCA. In regards to your first question, yes, insurers would be able to inquire about the number of animals on your property. In regards to the second question, I want to better understand the source of the question. So are you suggesting animals that are not necessarily owned by the property owner, whether those would be a liability under an insurance policy?
Well, I could see that if you, let's say you never had a dog, but you have a history of allowing people to come over your property, and those dogs that tend to come over all the time are known to be dangerous. Shouldn't the insurer be able to take that into factor? Because if I'm reading this language right, they wouldn't have the ability to because they were not harbored or owned on the property. But yet there would be a recorded history that these animals had a tendency to be on this property and that the property owner is not taking appropriate remediation to ensure that individuals aren't injured. So then it wouldn't be appropriate to allow the insurance company to factor in that information.
So that's certainly a complicated question. The liability would be on the individual who actually was bringing that animal onto the property, not the actual property owner, unless they were aware of the propensity for the danger. This is under the law. In terms of how the insurance provider would treat that, I'm not 100% sure. I think the policy is probably different depending on the insurance company. But under the law, if there's a reason to know that a dangerous animal is coming onto your property and you don't do anything to prevent that and put other people in harm's way, under the law, that would be an issue. But a policy provider would have some discretion as to whether or not that's something that they wanted to take into consideration. But certainly from the perspective of owning or harboring a dog on your property, if they have a bite history, if they have had aggressive acts, then that would be something that could be taken into consideration. And to the extent that an owner did not disclose that, then that would be fraud on the insurance policy. And then there would be an exclusion ultimately because of not disclosing that fact.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Chair. Full disclosure, I actually do own a pit bull, have for a very long time in that respect, and I appreciate the bill, but I am looking forward to hearing the opposition testimony. Hopefully they'll be allowed the same time frame and audio visual technologies to try to present their side of it. I don't understand what they're going to be able to present because I do agree with this bill and the concept. I'm just a little worried about making sure that, again, if you know or should have known that you continually have people come onto your property with dangerous animals, I do think the insurance company has the right to say, hey, you probably need to have your premiums raised because you're causing an issue, potentially. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Sotomayor. Let me put everyone's mind at ease. We will have a total of 20 minutes for each segment. 20 minutes for support, 20 minutes for opposition, 20 minutes for neutral. I've asked people if someone has already said what you were going to say, if you would just say ditto, because that allows more people to come in. So 20 minutes for each segment. And I hope that answers your question. Now, Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Scheibel, for bringing the bill. This is something that I think we've talked about in all the sessions that I've participated in one aspect or another. I recall the discussions, particularly given the breed of the dog and the propensity for dangerousness. I noticed that when we're talking about NRS 200 or 202-500, that has to, they have to bite twice within 18 months in order to be considered dangerous, or if they've caused a fatality. In doing some research though, and again, I'm a dog lover, used to train and show Dalmatians and have been around dogs my whole life. So I certainly am sensitive to the desire to make sure that people get to have their family members, as they call them. I just wonder, we're starting to dip into a commerce issue. And so I have a technical question, but I also have a question with respect to the statistics that are being bandied about. I did notice the dogbite.org statistic that showed that pit bulls were 6 times more likely than the number 2 cause of fatalities. And you know, as the Huffington Post, you know, the bastion of conservative thought, right? They pointed out that you can prove anything with statistics, although they did point out that you were twice as likely to die of a bee sting than a dog bite. But at the end of the day, I'm wondering, do we have a handle on because many insurance companies don't even ask about the breed, they ask about the propensity. Do we have an idea of how many insurance companies ask these questions, whether or not they make their insurance determinations solely on the breed? Do we have an idea of what exists out there?
So I can speak to a couple of those questions because I think there were 2 or 3 embedded in your question. And let me speak first to NRS 202.500, the dangerous or vicious dogs law. There are a couple of different ways under that law that a dog can be deemed dangerous or vicious. Biting, you know, 2 unprovoked bites within 18 months is simply one way that they can be shown. I mean, that's basically the per se vicious dog
Right.
law. But then there are other issues, you know, if it ever kills another animal, if it is simply acting in a menacing way, if it's used in the commission of a crime. And I mean, I don't have it memorized. I'm looking at it right now, but I do know that that it was specifically designed to eliminate the first bite is free rule, so that if there is a reason to believe that a dog is vicious without ever having bitten somebody, it can still be declared vicious under or dangerous under 202.500. And also I'll point out that SB 103 provides some leeway as well, because that includes the declared or known to be a dangerous dog. And that doesn't mean that, you know, you get a dangerous dog certificate. It means that, you know, somebody else has reported it to animal control, that there has been a record of a call of the police about the dog. And then the pursuant to 202.500 portion just says that, and we use these factors to determine whether or not that behavior is vicious or dangerous. To the question about the current state of insurance policies, I think this is a great question. I did have a meeting with APCIA. I have asked them for this information and they've not provided it to me. I was also concerned that they are utilizing statistics from dogbites.org in their testimony, and I sure hope they don't use that when they make determinations on insurance policies. So I've asked them for the source of the data that they use when they are underwriting insurance policies, and they've not provided it to me. So I think that there is a lack of transparency there that makes it hard for any of us to have a good sense for what kinds of information insurance companies are using when they're underwriting policies that are more expensive for owners of certain breeds of dogs than others.
All right, and I appreciate that. And Madam Chair, if I can just follow up on the technical question.
Yes.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And I've never had a problem getting insurance, even when we were breeding and had multiple dogs on the property. But that was also in a more rural part where those sorts of things were more common. So I don't know. I would be interested to see what the insurance companies or which insurance companies actually discriminate based on dog breed alone, because I've not seen that. But the technical question is having to do with Section 1, Sub 2, where we talk about sound underwriting and actuarial principles. Normally when I see this language, it's a defined term, yet we don't define sound underwriting and actuarial principles. So who's defining that? Is that going to be left up to the courts to determine what is sound and you know, proper actuarial processes, or is there a definition that we can point to so that everybody's clear?
Senator Pickard, I can attempt to respond to that. Susan Riggs with the ASPCA. So outside of breed, we would defer to insurance companies as to what they consider to be, their actuarial basis. So, absent, trying to point to breed and correlating that with the propensity for an aggressive nature, there are lots of signs that, whether or not, including those that are set forth in 202.500, that would indicate an aggressive nature. And so, the insurance companies can ask lots of questions, many of which I alluded to from different expert studies, whether or not a dog has been neutered, how many dogs are in a household, whether there's been a history of aggressive acts, whether they've been deemed dangerous or vicious. And so, all of those things are things that insurance companies can take into account. And as long as they're based upon, a set of data and facts that, they would normally utilize in making actuarial decisions.
Right, and I appreciate that. I just, as a former breeder, I wouldn't neuter my dogs unless they weren't show quality. But at the end of the day, I think that the decisions are really, if we're leaving it up to the insurance company to define what is a proper process, we're kind of leaving this so nebulous. It'll be left up to the courts to decide. And so I'm concerned that we don't have all the data we need to make an informed decision in this. But in any event, I appreciate your answers, and thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Scheibel, for bringing the bill.
Thank you. Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am coming at it from a little different angle. I'm a former meter reader. And, I've been bitten more than once. And so and by the way, never by a pit bull. Maybe, well, I better just stop there. So the insurance, section sub 3 of section 1, what the insurer may not ask, except to ask if the dog is known to be or has been declared to be dangerous or vicious in accordance with NRS 202.500. So how long is that dangerous or vicious? What does that process entail? How long does it take? And then the other part of the question would be, if we heard about shelters, does the shelter policy insurance, are they affected by the quote unquote dangerous or vicious dog that has been so declared? And has their insurance gone up? The shelter policy for such a dog, are they under their means of working, do they require the shelter put the dog down if it's got a history of 2 bites or in 18 months, or a history of aggressiveness, which is hard to tell from a meter reader because all dogs are aggressive when you're in their backyard. So those are the kinds of things that I'm concerned about.
Senator Hardy, Susan Riggs with the ASPCA. To respond to your question, so NRS section 202.500 defers to local animal control authorities to determine how they carry out that process. Generally, local government provides some due process for the owner to provide defenses. For example, when a dog took a menacing stance, was someone on their property? I mean, that's, regularly a defense is if there's trespass on a property. But the local authorities actually adopt regulations that allow that process to be carried out with more definition than is included in state code. So I don't think that there's a single response to that, and that the shelters, if they're on the line and may be able to respond to you how they address the designation of a dog as dangerous or vicious within their own care. So I don't have a response to that either. I apologize, but hopefully there's some folks on the line that might be able to respond more directly to you.
Is that all, Senator Hardy? You're muted.
I thought I was waiting for a response.
I think Ms. Riggs means literally on the line. We have some people who are calling in to testify. And so if they're listening now, I guess this is our request that when you testify in a few minutes, you address Senator Hardy's questions in your testimony.
I thought Ms. Riggs addressed it, but we'll continue. So any other questions, committee members? I don't see any other hands up. So now we will go to testimony on the bill. First, support. You'll have 20 minutes and each person will have 2 minutes. Please stick to your 2 minutes and remember ditto is good so that everyone or more people can get on and say what they want to say. Okay? So let's go to those in support.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of SB 103, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 701, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Mindy Elliott, MENDY, ELLIOTT. Good morning, Chair Spearman and members of the committee. I'm Mindy Elliott with Capital Partners, representing the Nevada Humane Society. We would like to thank Senator Scheibel for bringing forward SB 103. The Nevada Humane Society is a charitable nonprofit organization and the only open admission no-kill shelter in the state of Nevada. The mission of the organization is one of life-saving, promoting animal welfare while finding homes and providing care for over 100,000 homeless pets in northern Nevada. Senator Hardy, we will be providing detailed information to the committee as it relates to the screening process that the shelter undergoes prior to an adoption. And we certainly feel that SB 103 provides an excellent roadmap to ensure that families can afford to adopt all breeds of dogs. We encourage you to support SB 103, and we thank you for your time.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 184. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits of 184, please begin.
Good morning, Chair Spearman and committee members. My name is Matt Walker, MATTWALKER. I'm testifying in support this morning on behalf of the Nevada Veterinary Medical Association. Finding the right home environment is key to the long-term health of our pets. And in as much as this bill would remove cost of insurance as a barrier to finding the right home environment for our dogs, we're in full support and appreciate the Senator for bringing this conversation forward. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 591, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Jennifer Hague, JENNIFER HAUGE. Good morning. My name is Jennifer Hague with the Animal Legal Defense Fund, simply calling today in support of SB 103 for the record. We also signed on to the coalition support letter with the ASPCA, HSUS, and Best Friends Animal Society in written testimony. So in short, ditto. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 613, Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Rebecca Goff, R-E-B-E-C-C-A, G as in girl, O, F as in Frank, F as in Frank. And today I'm also representing the Nevada Humane Society as their clinic manager. First, I'd like to thank the bill's sponsor for bringing this important issue before you today. We support this bill. It's important to keep families together. And in my home, that includes my dog. We do not believe breed restrictions are supported by available data, and the Nevada Humane Society supports this bill. We feel this is a big step in the right direction to help keep pets in their homes and with the people that love them. Thank you so much for your time.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 679. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. You have
Hi,
2 minutes.
Jill
Please
Vicina.
slowly spell and thank you. Please.
Sorry. Jill Vicina Dobbs, Jill, space, capital V as in Victor, ACCHINA, space, capital D as in dog, O, B as in boy, S as in Sam. I'm the executive director of the SPCA of Northern Nevada, and on behalf of my organization and all of our supporters, I thank Chairman Spearman and the members of the Senate committee for hearing this bill today. I completely agree with everything that has been said before me, and so I'm going to focus on a personal story of what this means to families in the flesh. We see far too many families having to relinquish their beloved family members, specifically their dogs in this case, because of housing situations. A story that we saw just a couple of months ago was particularly heart-wrenching. The dad had lost his job due to COVID restricting his business. He had 2 young daughters who lost their mom 2 years prior in a car accident. They have a big, blocky-headed whatever that were the best friend and definitely the emotional support animal for not only those 2 daughters, but the dad as well. And they had to surrender it because the only affordable housing option he had in our region was out in Fernley, which meant that he was going to have to commute really far into work. And that housing opportunity did not allow pit bull type dogs. That dad and those 2 daughters sobbed over the body of that dog, soaking its fur in tears. It is the most heartbreaking thing to see when you have to now find a loving home for an animal that already has a loving family. So the emotional impact on those 2 girls and that dad was absolutely heartbreaking. And that dog whined in its kennel and cried for the first couple of days until we could get it moved into a foster home. Thank you. I ask that you all please vote in favor of supporting this bill to keep families together. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 565. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Ardea Canepa Rotoli, A-R-D-E-A, Canepa, C-A-N-E-P-A -R-O-T as in Tom, O-L-I. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and committee members. I'm here on behalf of myself and on behalf of Nevada Justice Association. I'd like to just briefly touch on some personal experiences that I have had with breed discrimination. I have been an owner of many bully breeds, American Staffordshire Terrier, quote-unquote pit bull. I experienced actually almost not being able to find housing for law school. I had to get a letter from a doctor as an emotional support animal. And after actually the condo units met my dog Bella, they actually ended up allowing pit bulls and fought to allow them later. I've also experienced not being able to obtain insurance for housing because, in fact, State Farm was one. I'm hoping now that they aren't breed discriminating, but when I tried to get State Farm insurance, which was cheaper than Farmers at the time, they were unable to insure me because I had a quote-unquote pit bull. So the breed discrimination absolutely exists when it comes to the insurance, and it's very unfortunate. From a public policy standpoint, on a legal side of it, as a lawyer, I think it's important to think about the fact that there are incidents, there are times there may be dog bites, and so we need to also look at the public policy of when an injured party does have an incident, being able to have insurance available for the potential recovery for those injured parties. And if you have insurance that's not going to insure or is going to reject coverage simply because of a breed, you now also have an injured party who may not be able to recoup funds simply because of that. So thank you for your time. I hope that you all vote in favor of SB 103 from a personal level and from a legal standpoint. For public policy, I think it's an amazing bill and is long overdue. Thank you for your time.
Caller with the last three digits of 656. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning. My name is Travis Clark, Travis Clark. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and committee members. I'm testifying on behalf of Nevada Justice Association in support of SB 103. I would like to echo ditto to Ms. Canepa's testimony. SB 103 sets the standard by which dogs are innocent until proven guilty, a hallmark of American law. Discrimination based on a dog's breed appears to have no standard amongst the insurance companies. Depending on the company engaged, different dog breeds appear on different lists. This looks on its face to be arbitrary and capricious. Some of these dog breeds are placed on a list based on nothing more than one news story. For example, a Presa Canario. These large dogs have been banned on almost every list due to one story that happened in 2011. Despite the rarity of such an issue, these dogs are now discriminated against by the insurance companies, just as Ms. Canepa testified. Moving is cited as one of the top reasons animal owners surrender their pets to local shelters. Divorcing people from their pets has extreme mental health issues, as was testified to earlier. And this burdens the taxpayers with more abandoned animals. In 2021, a more specific instrument is needed rather than a blunt curmudgeon. Mr. Pickard stated that pit bulls are 6 times more likely to be dangerous. I want to be careful here in stating that pit bull is not a breed, it is an occupation. He also correctly alluded to the lack of a consistent standard amongst the insurance companies. I am testifying on behalf of the Nevada Justice Association in support of SB 103, and I thank you for your time.
We are currently on support for SB 103. To testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 555. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Grace, Grace, Lopes, Lopes. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. I am in support of this bill. I am also in support of insurance companies being able to assess risk. I'm in support of this bill for 2 reasons. First of all, the breed list as it exists today is nothing more than a list of large dogs. It is not actuarially supported. If insurance companies want to establish whether there is frequency and whether there is severity, they need to collect the proper data, which results in actuarially supported premises, and that's how they set rates. The second reason why I support this bill is because there is a premium remedy. Both organizations, the AIPCA and NEMIC, have both indicated that the premium would be outrageous, but they have not indicated that they have the data to base their studies on or what that premium would be. There have been several questions asked. I am also, in addition to being in the insurance industry, I am also the chair of a Doberman rescue. There were several questions asked regarding rescues, and our insurance does not go up because of the dogs we take in. Although we are focused in New England, we do take dogs all over the country, and we do take dogs because people cannot get insurance. In the NEMAC letter, they have indicated that people who adopt dogs should take responsibility of that breed. And I will tell you that when people adopt from a shelter, whether it's a breed-specific shelter or just a local animal shelter, they do not have a choice as to what dogs they get. And therefore, this does play into the issue about low income and whether or not you're going out to buy a breed and paying $4,000 or whether you're going to the local shelter and paying $200. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 905. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, Marlene Richter, MARLENE RICHTER. Good morning. I'm the Executive Director of Noah's Animal House. We were founded in 2007 as a program at the Shade Tree Shelter in Las Vegas to remove a barrier for victims that had pets to enter shelter. We expanded to Northern Nevada in 2018. Since 2007, we have accepted all breeds and sizes of all pets without any restriction unless there was a noted aggression on the record. We have now served more than 2,000 pets, and the owners are victims who have been physically, emotionally, and financially impacted by the abuse. Moving out of a shelter to a new place is the next step in their survival. Higher premiums for renters is penalizing those victims that need to keep their best friend with them. NOAA's removed a barrier to safe shelter by co-locating our sanctuary next to the temporary housing. We support removing the breed bias that will impact not only the victims exiting shelter, but also those that have moved in with their friends or family. Abuse in Nevada impacts 1 of 4 women and 1 of 6 men sometime in their lifetime. The victims that we have served are 40% African American, 35% Caucasian, and about 21% Latino. We have heard so many times from all the people that we have served that the pet saved their life, not because they physically defended them, but because they loved them unconditionally, especially in those dark moments of violence and fear. Insurance restrictions create a financial barrier to housing that will leave victims with pets without access to housing when they should be celebrating safety and healing together. By removing a restriction, the victims don't have to choose again which life to save. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak on behalf of support for Senate Bill 103. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 823. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Stacy Coleman, STACEYCOLEMAN. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today. My sole purpose really for addressing you all today is to add comment and context to the opposing statement that was submitted by the American Property Casualty Insurance Association. I specialize in research and data that is used to govern how we live with dogs. And what seems like a dog issue becomes a social justice issue when populations among us are targeted because of assumptions made about pet keeping. The research that APCIA has relied on for its statement is concerning to someone like me who is thoroughly familiar with the body of literature relating to dog bites and dog bite related fatalities. The agency has implied that there is sufficient evidence that dog bites by breed label can be tracked. In fact, much of the earlier studies that included breed data have been debunked or updated by the original authors. The CDC has even ceased collecting dog bite data by breed. The APCIA asserts that certain breeds of dogs can bite with a force averaging 1,000 psi. It is impossible to base such a claim in science, as dogs certainly would not cooperate with such a study, not to mention PSI would be the wrong unit of measure, even if it was such a thing that could be done, because PSI measures gas or liquid. Approximately 40 Americans succumb to dog bite related fatalities every year. Despite the yearly increase in human population and dog population, that average number never changes by more than single digits in either direction. Yet APCIA has included a full color chart that's now infamous on this during this hearing, implying that being killed by dogs is a statistically measurable risk. Additionally, APCIA has conflated dog bites and dog bite related fatalities in their reports, a very serious mistake. While the chart is in their statement, like I said, is now infamous in this hearing, it is worth noting that the APCIA did not source their data, a continuing problem in insurance underwriting practices. Additionally, the also now infamous website that the APCIA uses often refers to scientists with whom they disagree as quote unquote science boards. Thank you for listening, and if anybody has any questions, I hope that they will turn to me, as I have plenty to say on this and lots more information.
Thank you, ma'am. Broadcast, we only have 3 minutes left, so there's only one more caller. And I'd just like to remind people, if someone has said what you have already said, you can say ditto, and we can get more callers in. So the last caller.
We are currently on support for SB 103. To testify in support, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Okay, so we will start now 20 minutes for those in opposition.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition of SB 103, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 902. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
My name is Mark Seknin, S as in Sam, E-K-T, N as in Nancy, A-N, and I represent the American Property Casualty Insurance Association. APCIA is a national insurance trade representing a broad cross-section of the insurance industry, right in all property and casualty lines. I appreciate the author taking the time to talk to me and allow me to share our concern. APCIA opposes legislative or regulatory efforts that would require insurers to wait for a potentially devastating personal injury loss before being able to decide whether to provide or continue to provide coverage. APCIA understands the concerns of those who advocate for restrictions on underwriting based on dog ownership. Some people believe that insurers should avoid the assumption that a dog may be vicious merely because of the breed, and they want to ensure coverage is available for those who may face the risk of significant liability claim. Numerous studies have been published on dog bite injuries and fatalities by breed. More than 4 million dog bites occur each year in the United States, with associated liability claims totaling $797 million in 2019, an increase of 134% since 2003. According to the Insurance Information Institute and State Farm, the average cost per claim increased by 14.7% in 2019. The average cost paid out for dog bite claims nationwide was $44,760 in 2019, up from $39,017 in 2018. The average cost per claim nationally has risen 134% from 2003 to 2019 due to increased medical costs as well as the size of settlements, judgments, and jury awards given to plaintiffs who are trending upwards. Insurance companies must be able to properly underwrite and rate risk. If insurers are forced to insure those homeowners with an increased chance of loss, whether it is a poorly maintained wood-burning stove, a leaky roof, or an aggressive dog, they must be able to charge an adequate rate. Where the hazard is too great, the rate would simply not be affordable, and some insurers may find it necessary to refuse to accept a new policy or to non-renew an existing policy. Further, it would be unfair to charge a higher rate to all insured to continue to accommodate those with a controllable exposure. While some have cited that insurance available. I'm sorry, I'm the lead opposition witness, and the opponent's got a fair more time. I don't.
Sir, we've allotted 20 minutes for each one. Yeah, we've allotted 20 minutes for each one, 20 minutes for support, 20 minutes for opposition. And so we're going to stick to that. If the 2 minutes is up, please feel free to submit the rest of your information in writing to our committee secretary. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 983. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Senator Spearman, members of the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee. My name is Joe, J-O-E, Guild, G-U-I-L-D, representing State Farm insurance companies. State Farm is generally concerned about any bill that may interfere with the normal course of underwriting or rating a risk. Insurers use available data and assess objective information in order to make sure that customers pay a price for their insurance coverage that is tied to the risk they present. If insurers are prevented from utilizing risk-based pricing, that means some customers who ordinarily would be considered a lower risk will be forced to subsidize customers who present a higher risk of loss. The elimination or erosion of risk-based pricing and underwriting in the end means that some customers pay more than their fair share. The legislature, frankly, shouldn't be in the business of picking winners and losers, and therefore, State Farm respectfully opposes SB 103. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
We are currently in opposition of SB 103. To testify in opposition, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. We will go now to those in neutral. 20 minutes, 20 minutes.
To testify neutral on SB 103, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers that are neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. So we will end the part with public testimony. Let me say this for all those who are listening. If we were not virtual, if we were doing this in person, once I say we have a time limit and there's 2 minutes, trust me, in person, I will gavel you out. So I don't want anybody to think there's anything different. And those of you who have served on this committee with me know exactly what I'm saying. 2 minutes for each person. And we will not allow any person to think that they are special and get more than 2 minutes. Same here as it would be if we were in person. Thanks a lot. Senator Scheibel, do you have any closing remarks?
Just to thank the committee for their time and their thoughtful questions, and I'll let you know that I'm always here to help answer them or connect you with people who can if there are any remaining questions after today. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. And thank your team for presenting this morning. So with that, I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 103, and we'll open it up to public comment. And public comment is 2 minutes each. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. To speak on public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you currently have no one for public comment at this time.
Let's wait about another minute in case someone wanted to testify and they're having some problems. So we'll give it another minute, okay?
Thank you. Chair, your public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, committee members, for your time today, and thank the presenters for your time today. I think we have had a very robust conversation about Senate Bill 103. There may be some questions which are remaining, but I would invite individual committee members, if you have questions, please check with Senator Scheibel, and she can get you to the person that might answer your questions about the bill. So with that, we're going to close this meeting, and we will see you again on Monday. We'll see you again on Monday. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend, okay? Bye-bye.